Okay, welcome to MDC Talks. We are the Motion Dance Collective, and we promote the creation and education of dance on film. This episode is going to be called Choreography is Everything.
Dum dum dum.
Yeah. So my kicker off a question is quite long. I'm going to read it off the sheet and make sure I get it right. So we are talking about choreography as everything. So if the definition that I found in the Oxford Dictionary of choreography says the sequence of steps and movements in dance or figure skating, especially in a ballet or other staged dance. So it's talking about choreography being steps put into sequences for stage. Okay.
For performance.
For performance, yeah. So I think the performance aspect of this is kind of really important. So what I want to look at is the idea that if the camera operator and the dancer on screen are both working in unison, they have a scene that is blocked out, but they can both repeat the action over and over again. That, by definition, kind of falls into choreography. Do we kind of...
Yeah, 100%.
Do we have anything to add to that before I go on?
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
No. So if it's a repeatable thing, like a performance is repeatable, then it kind of classes as choreography. Now, if one or both of these elements is improvising, if the dancer is improvising and the cameraman has a set path, or vice versa, the dancer has a choreography, but the camera is improvising, does that mean that that dance film is not choreographed?
No. So I think no.
Because
I agree with that.
Just like when you're choreographing dance, you sometimes have elements within the dance that are improvised, but that's still a choice, that's still a decision, that's still a conscious, for these 8 counts, you're going to improvise, and I want the improvisation to be about this intention or whatever. So to me, that's still choreography because it's a intention, it's a decision, it's a choice.
Yeah, because you can always have structured improvisation, and I guess there's always a structure, well, most of the time there's a structure built around that improvisation, or at least something that's leading it.
And so when it comes to that, because we have shoots where we will choreograph the camera for a certain shot,
so common.
But then at the same time, we'll do the same take with improvised camera angles, right? So that's still a decision. That's still a bit of an experiment. It's a play on figuring out what we can capture for that specific frame. But
that will
I think
add to the choreography that would develop in the edit as well, I guess.
think it's still choreography. I know that's, a bit contradictory, but I think it's still choreography.
I think generally in the way that we work when we're creating screen dance anyway, is there is a lot of improvisational elements.
Yeah.
And in film in general, there's a lot of improvisational elements. You have a plan, you turn up on the day, everything goes to...
Yeah, and then I guess you can call that, unscripted work, and then does it become unchoreographed if it doesn't have that vibe?
Well, that's what I was just going to say, is unscripted and unchoreographed kind of the same? Because we're talking about a genre that doesn't include necessarily a dialogue script as such.
Technically,
right? It may, but it doesn't have to.
That's a good question.
Does that translate
What do you think?
into like almost the same term? Is unscripted almost the same term in this sense?
No, so we're saying no, I guess, because unscripted, you can... when we're looking at maybe blocking is a better word than script, because there might be a script to your piece that has improvisation in the script, if that makes sense. Like there's improvisation in the choreography.
Yep.
But what am I trying to say?
But blocking and script are different anyway, even in traditional film.
And that's why I say that with traditional film, blocking and choreography maybe are the 2 words we should use instead of script.
Counterparts.
Yeah, instead of scripts, because I don't think script and choreography is necessarily binary.
No.
Probably
script and concept are maybe closer.
Maybe, I don't know. Because obviously script has the words in it, but the timing of everything is quite different. Blocking is where you start to work out the timing, the pace, and I think choreography comes into that. You can have a sequence of movement, but how are they done? The tone of it, the speed of them, the energy that it needs, how the camera interacts with that. So all of that stuff is a big part of choreography.
And it's so interesting because then you think about the fact that some choreography is accidental. Accidental choices that make something choreographed.
Can you give me an example of that?
So like if we were on a shoot and we were filming a specific scene and say we did it a couple of times, you have ideas of what you want to capture, but say in one take, you're panning up, and that's just the conscious choice. You're choreographing the camera to pan up when she's doing this sequence. And then we take it again, but we leave it up to the camera operator to choose what he's doing with the shot. So maybe you focus in on a specific part of the body, or you zoom out, or something very different. And then later on, when we're actually in the editing suite, you use a combination of those shots. So you're using the choreographed pan up as well as elements of the improvised frame captures. So it's sort of, but then the edit is in the choreography there because you're also incorporating both.
But we can also talk about choreography as an editing tool, obviously.
Yeah, no, exactly. I always say that when you're in production, you're really capturing the pieces of your puzzle, or capturing the pieces, putting the pieces of your choreography, capturing the singular pieces of a choreography.
Yeah.
And then you want to put it together and then actually choreograph. Screendance works in 3 stages of choreography, isn't it? It's the choreography in the rehearsal, the choreography in the actual production day, and then the choreography in the editing
Post-production.
suite.
I mean, for me, I always think of the editing process of Screendance as the performance. You put the performance together.
That's a really good way of looking at it.
Because then you
choreograph.
It's like your rehearsal,
right. And then you put the performance together.
Right.
You piece all those bits of choreography together to make your performance.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think the definition for me boils down to if it's a decision, if it's a choice, if there's an intention behind that, whatever you're doing, whether it's dancing or shooting or whatever, if there is an intention behind that choice, that's choreography.
Okay.
But that's, I think, the way I view it. I don't know if you would agree, but I think that defines it for me.
Okay, so that kind of leads me on talking about kind of the positioning of a choreographer working in editing. But if we talk about the choreographer overlapping with the director for a second, this is, I feel like we could talk about this forever.
Yeah.
In Screendance, my personal experience is that often the director, the official director role, gets pushed aside and replaced by the role of the choreographer. The choreographer becomes the director in a Screendance setting. I've also worked on shoots where both have been there, a choreographer and a traditional director. And
what was that like?
I've always found that dynamic really tentative.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. You essentially have 2 head chefs. So just tell me a little bit about your thoughts in terms of that role exchange because of the genre.
Yeah, I think we as screen dancers talk a lot about how there should be just one word, like a choreorector, choreographer.
Yeah.
Like because a lot of the time they're smaller teams, so a lot of people kind of take on multiple roles. But when I'm making work, the choreographer role, the director role, even the producer role, have so many roles underneath it. So it's about being on the same page with the project and deciding what's needed for that project from both of you. So sometimes I'll get a director in and I'll be like, can you just make sure that the emotion in the face is right? I've got the body, the rest of the body. I've choreographed the movement for the extremities, but can we get that emotion here? Because I don't have time to focus on that right now or something, So sometimes I'll get a director in, and his task is to make sure that that is good, and obviously the cameras and everything is all sorted, and directing the shoot. And yeah, a director is a director's job is to tell the story, right? But who writes the story is a very
to make
different
sure
thing
the story
as well.
gets told.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah, but who writes the story is a very different thing. So if I'm the choreographer and I've made the concept as well, and I've made the story,
which normally is the case.
Then,
I mean, not always, but
yeah. So then I'd want a bit more artistic control when it came to how the story was told.
Yeah.
But,
to make sure that your
but it's
vision
also my
was-
job to make sure everyone's on the same page before we get to the shoot.
What, as the choreographer?
If it's as the
If it's your
person who's written
story.
the story.
But what if you don't necessarily have that power?
Yeah, I mean, it depends
Because
whether we're talking about independent film within MDC or like clientele projects where there's 20 people in the crew and you're the choreographer and you only have that one singular job to do is take care of your dancers and make sure what the bodies in front of the camera are doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
Right.
I think
So it kind of depends because it does bleed.
Yeah, absolutely. They bleed into each other. That's the issue, right? We've had this debate many times because I think what it might come down to is responsibility. So a choreographer has stereotypical responsibilities to their work, and just as a director has responsibilities to creating the final product of whatever it is, right? And we often see that the director and the choreographer are the same person in screen dance because it eliminates this possibility of not necessarily
Two visions
matching.
not syncing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, not necessarily seeing eye to eye or having to compromise your vision for what someone else wants to do or say.
Well, that's the thing. I think you all have to have the same vision before you start.
Which is very important, and obviously we've learned that through experience. But at the same time, there are certain benefits to having a director as well as a choreographer on set. You just have to be really clear in what those roles are for each person. So I think that's the most important thing because they overlap for sure. They can also be two different people, but as long as you're all working towards the same goal and you have your responsibilities, you know, you know what your job is, and no one's stepping on anybody's toes.
Yeah.
It can be, you know, really beneficial. Like on Ease on Down, you had a director and a choreographer, and they were both on set. The choreographer happened to be also on screen and dancing. So I think it's very common in screen dance for people to wear multiple hats and to be doing lots of different things at the same time.
Yeah, and
But
it's just important to make those boundaries clear and what parts of the role do you want me to do beforehand, because then people will just have, again, their story of what direction is, but it might, what that story is going to be based on the last film you did. So
bringing it back to everything as choreography, though, is the fact that as the choreographer, you might be also doubling as the director because you're deciding what gets seen on screen.
Yeah, so
You know?
so in terms of everything as choreography, I mean, me and I just had a really quick chat off camera about my kind of advocacy for the skills of film being brought into screen dance. It seems like a stupid thing to say, but I feel like a lot of the skills are brought from dance into screen dance,
Yeah, that makes sense.
and there isn't a lot of information coming from the other side, from the professional film industry.
Yeah.
And my thoughts on this kind of thing are that a director in a classical sense of kind of traditional filmmaking is already working as a choreographer. If we're looking at choreography in terms of the coordination and unification of how the camera is interacting with the scene and how the subject is interacting within the scene, that is a choreographic decision. And he's obviously working with a team to do that, but he is wearing that hat. So a director in a classical sense is already assuming a role of a choreographer in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which I think is really interesting. I think it's worth pointing out that, because I think dancers and choreographers can kind of get this hat on sometimes where they go, well, I'm a choreographer and I know choreography, but there are also people working outside of the dance world who have heaps of experience in choreographing for screen, even though it's not called choreography.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's a really interesting overlap, and that's what really made me think about, okay, well, you know, if we're going to do dance on film, we've got a choreographer and a director on set. They're both kind of doing the same job. So then it comes down to what you were saying, really clear communication before you turn up. What are you handling and what am I handling?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even as Douglas Rosenberg talks in his essay on screen dance, is that it's a site-specific practice. And choreographers know the architecture of dancers, and directors specialize in the architecture of the camera. So I think when it comes to that and differentiating them in that way, is that it's good that we all have an understanding of everything, but when it comes to separating your roles, you're working with the architecture of the body, and the director is working with the architecture of the body, the camera, the bodies in the space, but also the technical architecture.
Yeah.
In the same way that a director would work with theatrical architecture. This is the space we've got to block the movement. But the choreographer controls then the architecture of the actual body itself. And I think that might be a nice way of compartmentalizing the roles in some way, but there's also joy in being able to say, oh, I've got a directional note as the choreographer. Tell the director, do you agree with this? And the director goes, cool, I agree with this, let's get it done. And then if there's not, we can have a conversation, but to not step on other people's toes is to kind of go, right, well, I know what hat I'm wearing today, but whether I have these expertise in these other roles, I can make suggestions, but it's not my decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
I guess in that.
Me and you have kind of had a few instances where I've brought you in on projects as like a director or a movement director, where I've wanted to focus on the technical aspects of the shoot, and I've not wanted to wear that hat of also having to look at and direct the person who's actually on screen, and in that sense having someone come on as like, I really need you to come on and be a director, because I have an idea of what I want to do, but I want to give that to you, and I want to focus on this, and I want you to just manage my vision here. And I find that really useful, because I hate to wear 20 hats and do a poor job of all of them. So for me, being able to delegate to someone like that, like you say, bring someone in and say, you know, you handle this and I'll handle this.
And I'll handle that, and then we can
we'll raise the whole project.
Yeah, exactly.
Having a team there that can be present throughout the whole thing and really understand the process and the vision of either the choreographer or the director or the joint vision of both of those entities is really going to help bring the choreography of the work to the forefront in terms of the whole product, in terms of the whole performance on screen, down to, you know, the editing and the way it's shot and the merging of the camera movement and the merging of the subject movement, having that unified presentation is really what choreography is about, right?
Yeah, and I guess we can say everything is choreography, we can say everything is direction, you know, we can say everything's production.
Again, another topic that we could talk about for hours.
But just as a final to this, I mean, I started as a choreographer, and then through my process in Screendance, I saw everything as choreography because it was comfortable for me to do so, and it helped me relate my own language to other people. So if I saw the whole thing as a choreographic process, then I knew that if I didn't really know too much about it, at least I can approach it from a language that I knew and see if it fits.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
So even if you're a director and everything, you look at dancers and you still see it in a director's eye, a viewpoint, then keep that viewpoint and let's discuss with one another, because it's only going to add to the culminated language that Screendance is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. So we'll end there on our topic of this is everything is choreography.
Everything is choreography.
Yeah, great. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Ciao for now.